All right, welcome. Today, we're diving into a question that might just flip your whole reality upside down. We're going to explore a really wild idea. What if our world isn't made up of billions of different things, but is actually just one single, unified whole? Let's get into it.
So let's just start with that, right there. Are you sure the world is made of things? I mean, it sounds like a trick question, doesn't it? Of course it is. But what if that feeling, that absolute certainty, isn't the truth of reality, but just the truth of being human? I mean, just look around. Our entire experience is built on separate objects. There's a chair, a tree, a cup of coffee, there's you. That's our default mode, you know? It's how we navigate the world, by carving it up into individual pieces we can name and interact with.
And that's really our first stop. We're going to take a closer look at this default setting of ours, this way we have of seeing the world as a collection of countless, separate objects. The source material we're drawing from actually has a name for this. It calls it the perspective of distinctions. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's our built-in method of trying to understand the whole by chopping it up into little local parts. We draw these invisible lines everywhere to make sense of things. It's our #1 tool. Okay, but here's the twist. What if that tool, the very act of dividing everything up, is actually creating a kind of illusion? This is where we start to pull at the threads of that fundamental assumption. Seriously, think about it. Get down to the microscopic level. Where do you actually end and the air around you begin? You're constantly shedding skin cells into your environment. You're breathing, exchanging molecules with the room. The source argues that if you look close enough, there's no hard line. It's a blur, a constant fuzzy exchange. So this sets up the two big competing ideas. On one side, you've got our normal, everyday human view. Reality is a bunch of different objects, and they all have to follow the laws of nature. But on the other side is this radical idea from the source. Reality is just one single thing, and everything we see, people, planets, stars, they're not separate objects, they're just changing properties of that one thing. In this whole perspective of distinctions thing, it's not just some philosophical head-scratcher. According to the source, it actually starts to create huge problems, cracks even, in our scientific models, especially when we start looking at the really weird corners of the universe. And here's the key point. Our best attempts to describe the universe, our incredible theories like quantum mechanics and general relativity, the source argues they aren't describing reality as it actually is. They're just describing our human interpretation of reality, built on our flawed, object-focused foundation. Think about quantum mechanics. From this viewpoint, it's so bizarre, because it's basically the strange glue we had to invent to make our artificial divisions stick together. It describes how these separate things we've imagined seem to interact. But what if it's all just a complex set of statistics for objects that, at a fundamental level, don't even really exist as separate things in the first place? So if the world isn't a collection of separate parts, then what in the world is it? Well, this leads us to a really beautiful way to think about it all, what you might call the ocean of being. The source puts it this way, and it's a fantastic metaphor. Imagine a wave in the ocean trying to describe all the other waves. It can measure their height and their speed, but it's missing the most important point. There aren't actually separate waves. There's only the ocean. There's only water, just constantly reshaping itself. Let that one sink in for a second. We aren't little objects floating around in the universe. We are the universe. We are properties of it, temporary shapes that it's taking. We're not a wave on the ocean. We are the ocean waving.
Okay, so if you really accept this, the consequences are huge. It means we have to try and see beyond our own built-in human perspective and really grapple with what it means for reality to be a single, unbroken whole.
So let's just trace the argument one more time. Step 1, we see a world of separate things. Step 2, we realize that perception is just a human way of seeing, a convenient division of a whole. Step 3, we see how this division leads to paradoxes in our science. And that leads to step 4. The only other option is that reality is, and always was, one single thing. And that's really the bottom line here. The central argument from the source is that our main tool for understanding, division, is the one thing that can never ever truly describe something that is whole. No matter how many times you slice up a loaf of bread, you'll never understand the nature of the unsliced loaf from studying the crumbs. Which leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on. The idea that the world is made of things feels like the most obvious, solid truth there is. But if that foundation, that most basic assumption, is actually flawed, well, what other truths are we missing? What else are we getting completely wrong just because of the way we're built to see the world?